Hello, this is Regnard Bishoza. Welcome to the second part or episode 2 of the analysis of the novel Passed Like a Shadow. I wish to welcome you as we extend further regarding the analysis of this novel Passed Like a Shadow. The previous lesson was all about chapters summary, and the last chapter that we ended with was chapter 7. It was chapter 6. Therefore, today we are starting from chapter 7 onwards. Remember, the novel comprises of 10 chapters. So, in this lesson, I am going to cover the remaining chapters summary, and we're also going to discuss on the title, although we had a brief presentation about the meaning of the title, but we are going to have further discussion on it. Thereafter, we shall be looking on characters and characterization. After this part, we shall be looking on the setting of this novel. Lastly, we shall be looking on the style used by the writer of this novel, Regnard Mapalala. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 has the heading, Atoki's Life in Kampala. Listeners, remember Atoki has a friend in Kampala, and that is David. Now, Atoki has been invited by his friend David in Kampala. Before going home, they go to a restaurant where David influences Atoki to have a girlfriend. Who is that girlfriend by her name? She is Ada. You remember, Ada is a prostitute, although she is educated. Atoki refuses since he has never slept with a girl in all his 22 years of age. David even tells a girl named Ada to kiss him. Remember, it was a public kiss. Is Atoki going to manage it? Here we go. Reaching home, Atoki receives a warm welcome. After lunch, they gather to watch a film that is full of sexual scenes. And this is one of indicators of moral decay as far as David's family is concerned. Then Atoki is given a room in the visitors' quarters full of pornographic magazines and pictures of half-naked women. David tells Atoki, and the following phrase can be heard from David telling Atoki. What is that statement? David says, if you cannot change the world, allow the world to change you. And this is one of the motivations behind what we call effects of peer pressure and influence. This is one of the common sayings in English, although it has been used to influence Atoki to change any behavior. This is found on page number 33. Atoki is given another offer at the Sheraton, but before going, they watch a television program on AIDS. The victim narrates instead how AIDS has affected him. He also says how he suffers from stigma from his friends and relatives. So that is to say, HIV/AIDS victims are stigmatized in this very society. A thing that should be discouraged in the society of today. As the announcer educates on the ways HIV spreads from infected person to another, David's father ignores him, calling him old-fashioned. This is a good indicator of carelessness of individuals as far as HIV/AIDS is concerned, and this eventually results into inevitability towards individuals to pass like a shadow. The reason behind being HIV/AIDS. They go at the Sheraton and David's father picks girls at their presence. We are told that David is a Makerere University reject. David is a Makerere University dropout, in other words. He influences Atoki to take beer and he feels nice. That is to say, Atoki is changing in behavior. Remember, he was before a green man, but now he is undergoing some changes. Remember, Atoki's behavioral change results from peer pressure and influence which he receives from his friend David in Kampala. From that point, he begins reflecting on Ada. At the end, Ada gets hold of Atoki. That is to say, Atoki is completely tied to Ada. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 has the heading which states Vic and Aliganyira visit the witch doctor. Aliganyira is Vicky's husband, and we are going to find why Aliganyira influences Vicky to visit the witch doctor. Here we go. Aliganyira and Vic are eating supper when her husband suggests that they should go to the witch doctor in somewhere in Kahina village to find out why they don't get a child for 10 years since they got married. At first, she refuses, but due to the pressure from her husband, she agrees. The pressure was coming from his folks, especially his mother, that if Vic is unproductive, he should throw her out and bring in a replacement. They leave in the midnight, and finally they reach the witch doctor's house in Kahina village. They find 6 sick people laid down on the floor. What are the 6 sick people suffering from? Probably they are suffering from HIV/AIDS. And this is an indicator of belief in superstition, as it is indicated and shown to the 6 sick people laying down on the floor to the witch doctor's house, in the witch doctor's house. 2 were very thin and had lashes all over their bodies. When their turn comes, Aliganyira and Vic are asked whether they want a boy or a girl. They prefer a boy, but remember, Aliganyira is the one who prefers a boy, although Vic had a contrary view. But because this society seems to be led by patriarch system or male dominance, Vic is denied from right to decision making. He tells them that to make one boy costs 1 million, or else they go home. So that is to say, the witch doctor is greedy. He is after money, and he puts forward lies and deceit. The witch doctor uses a small sharp knife to prick Vicky's stomach and tattoo it with his wizardry doors. Vic remembers the television program she had watched on AIDS, which warned on the danger of sharing sharp instruments. Remember, the instruments used to cut or to prick Vicky's stomach are not sterilized, and probably, if not surely, Vic acquires HIV/AIDS somewhere at the witch doctor in Kahina village. Vic was desperate and in need of a baby, but now she was receiving something else. What is that something else? It is nothing but HIV/AIDS. So, dear listeners, this story seems to be hurting and thought-provoking, because individuals are perishing due to some reasons that could be fault. Chapter 9, with the title The Death of Adiel and Sickness of Amoti. Amoti is sick and Adiel is dead. Remember, Adiel dies of HIV/AIDS. Adiel has passed away. His drinking mates say a lot about him. They even have a discussion on whether the Bazungu or the white men are also dying of HIV/AIDS. They talk about the origin of AIDS. Some say it originated from Zaire through green monkeys. Some say it was brought by Bakombo soldiers from Tanzania during the Idi Amin War. One said that the virus was manufactured in the genetic laboratory in California. They concluded that the problem with AIDS is not where it came from, but rather where it is going. That's to say, it is going to finish Uganda. Why Ugandan people are about to perish due to HIV/AIDS? It is because of ignorance. Remember, among people who were having a discussion here on where AIDS originated include Tonto and Petro. Back in Katumba, Abok is alone nursing her sick mother. So that is to say, Aboki seems to be a responsible girl. She is taking care of her sick mother, Amoti. But remember, Atoki is somewhere in Kampala city, enjoying life. While he could be back taking care of her sick mother, but he has escaped from his home and he is somewhere in Kampala. He has sent several messages to Aboki, had sent several messages to Atoki, but he is tied up to Eda and is rarely seen. So that is to say, Atoki's mother and Aboki are disappointed by Atoki's behavior of reluctance by not replying any of their letters. They are need for him to be back and take care of them, but he pretends not to hear anything from his family. he is tied up to Eda. Aboki decides to go to Kasese to seek financial assistance from Vicky, only to find her as sick as her dying mother. That is to say, Vic suffers from HIV/AIDS as well, and she is about to die. Inevitably, Vicky's husband, Aliganyira, must suffer from HIV/AIDS. Nevertheless, Vic advises her not to go for money because it will kill her. Then Vic gives her enough money to help her. That's to say, Vic is a caring woman, a good advisor, and an innocent fellow. Then a man named Johnny from a rich family becomes Aboki's best friend in need, who helps her in taking care of the sick mother. One day, Johnny invites her to his house. He offers her a Coke, and when she goes out for a short call, Johnny drops a Valium tablet in her glass of Coke. Aboki becomes drunk and wakes up in the morning and finds herself naked on Johnny's bed. That is to say, John rapes Aboki, and this results into Aboki's frustration. Chapter 10. Aboki's frustration sends her for blood test. Aboki decides to go for blood test following Johnny's rape upon her. Aboki is frustrated and confused. She thinks of having got HIV or unwanted pregnancy, and she gets thinner and thinner until her mother is shocked. One night, she gets the idea of going to Virika Hospital for blood tests. Aboki meets Dr. Jonathan, who counsels her on the precautions to take when contacting the victims. Aboki narrates the story of why she suspects to have acquired the virus. Then he takes her blood sample and asks her to come for results after 2 weeks. The results are good, and she takes a pregnancy test, which also proves nil. She is happy for that. Then Jonathan gives her a post-test counseling. In the process, the two fall in love for each other. Those are Aboki and Dr. Jonathan. Atok comes back suddenly and finds that his mother has already died. Atok is sick. His friend David's mother, and their house girl are also sick. David's father has perished already. Perished of what? HIV/AIDS. Vic and Atok go to visit Uncle Arari at Kitagwenda Ihunga village. Uncle Arari welcomes them warmly and tells Atok, "My son, my dear son, welcome home. East or west, home is best." Listeners, this marks the end of chapter 10 in summary and the end of the novel's chapters summaries, and let us continue with the title of this novel. Remember, I talked about this title earlier, but you're going to add something as far as the knowledge of this novel is concerned. Well, Passed Like a Shadow is a symbolic title. Why symbolic? The title suggests another meaning. The title represents most of the events that take place in the novel, and such events can be viewed in the following light. In other words, the following is how the title manifests itself with the content presented in this novel. Well, the title Passed Like a Shadow represents human life, showing the need to do good things that will be left behind as a beautiful memory of you when you are gone. So it is a kind reminding that people should live in a good way, so that when they are gone or when they die, they will be remembered for the good that they did. Living a worthless life on earth that leaves no any memorable mark is, to the author of this novel, Regnard Mapalala, the same as having passed on this earth like a shadow. It is like you never existed, because no one will remember you. Remember, what memory does Adieri leave behind when he passes like a shadow? When he dies, people remember about him due to his behavior of excessive drinking behavior or alcoholism, his bad behavior like infidelity, promiscuity, irresponsibility, patriarch nature of his personality. So he is remembered for nothing but the catastrophic experience. Look at the following. Before looking at the following song, it is reminded that an individual becomes like a shadow that vanishes away when the sun disappears in the crowds. So individuals who live, or people who die without leaving some good memories, are compared with the life of a shadow that passes quickly and in a short period of time. So most people in this novel die by leaving behind some bad memories, and they live in a short period of time. Remember the lives of people like Twoki, Adieri himself, David's father, prostitutes who are at a danger zone of acquiring HIV/AIDS, who are to Simeon Kunihira. Their lives must be shortened due to HIV/AIDS. Listeners, to further the explanation of this title, the title can be evidenced in a novel by looking at the following song sung by pupils of Kinyamasika Primary School on Parents' Day, page number 22 of this novel. I will be reading this song for you to add something important as far as this title of the novel is concerned. The song reads, What have I done in this world? What memories shall I leave when I am gone? If memories I shall leave are only those of having eaten and drunk, I shall be ashamed. There is no honor in that. And remembering you for the dirt you leave behind, it is a curse which precedes you on your journey. Many people who die in anonymity, they die in anonymity because the glorious thing they did were eating, drinking, and sleeping. Then they crown their glory with death, a deed which is not hard even for the young and blessed, that is, having passed on this earth like a shadow. So people whose lives were remembered by their eating, drinking, and sleeping behavior, they leave no any memorable back, but their lives are equated to a shadow that vanishes in a short period of time. The second manifestation of this novel, or the title of this novel, Passed Like a Shadow, presents a Diary's family that suffered a tragedy of AIDS pandemic and passed from the scene of life like a shadow, leaving behind only one family member. Who is this family member? She is a book who is HIV free. Another manifestation of the title of this novel regarding to the content presented, the title represents the fact that AIDS pandemic has invaded the whole of Uganda and washes people away in large numbers and within a very short time. Remember, this book was written the moment when HIV AIDS was at its peak, or the beginning of its transmission in both Uganda and Tanzania. So, a large number of people perished. They died of HIV AIDS due to some reasons like what we have seen in this novel. Ignorance being one case in point. So this is compared to the shadow that disappears quickly when the sun disappears in the clouds. People's lives were shortened. Refer to how the following people pass away in the short time. Adiari's family, David's family, Arganyira's family, and Birungi. Apart from these families, the whole society in Uganda and Tanzania, AIDS is killing people so quickly. Most people have acquired the disease unawares and ignorantly spread it unknowingly. The whole community is passing away like a shadow. Here was the presentation of the title of this novel, how the title relates to what happens in a novel. Listeners, here goes the presentation of characters and the characterization. Characters who make this novel. And remember, the presenter is Regnard Bishoza. Let us continue. The first character, and who is regarded as the main character, is Adieri. Who is Adieri in this novel? Adieri is the father of Wabok and Yatoki, and a husband to Amoti, and a caregiver to Vicky. He is an ex-headmaster of St. Leo's High School. Adieri loses his job as a result of a financial scandal for the money he steals to build a house for Birungi at Burungu. He is a heavy drunkard and a greed. How? He becomes a hopeless heavy drunkard after losing the job, which job was once the headmaster at St. Leo's High School, but due to financial scandal, he is fired from the job. Adieri also sets high bride price that makes Vicky's marriage to Akena impossible. That is to say, Adieri is greed. Adieri is hot-tempered. How? He is extremely hot-tempered and he treats his family as a dictator. He beats his wife and children, often over just slight mistakes. Remember, the children receive classic slap, that is a talking, while the wife Amoti receives sound beating. Adieri is an irresponsible father. He fails to provide for the family. Due to his drinking habit, he fails to foot or to cover the food berries in the house. That is why Uncle Arari comes and finds children with no food and foods the house food berries. Adieri is a reputed womanizer and a distinguished sex maniac. He engages in extramarital affairs or sexual affairs out of marriage with his concubines, who eventually make him acquire the dreadful AIDS pandemic. He is deserted by his family and goes to get shelter to Birungi's home, but she throws him away at the end. Adieri is a victim of HIV/AIDS. He remains hopeless and dies miserably of the disease, passing like a shadow. It is now safe to comment that Adieri is not worth being emulated. Nothing positive we can learn from him. The second character is Amoti. Amoti is the wife of Adieri and a mother of Aboki and Atwoki. She is a responsible and caring mother. How? Despite Adieri's being a heavy drunkard and a womanizer, Amoti remains stable and takes care of the children. Despite all her weaknesses, Amoti has a positive side. She manages to take care of her children even after family separation. We are told that until they reach high school, Atwoki and Aboki have never engaged in sexual affairs. So this is a responsible mother who takes care of her children by protecting the children's moralities for them to avoid engaging in bad behavior. Amoti is jealous. We are told that Amoti does not want Vic to marry Akena because of jealousy. As a result, she puts an obstacle that Akena is a Munyamahanga, a man from another tribe. Also, she is jealous of the wife of the rich shopkeeper. And this is shown in chapter 1 when Amoti gossips against the wife of the rich shopkeeper, and she has a friend, a best friend, Abuori, in chapter 1, and they could talk negatively about the wife of the rich shopkeeper. That is to say, the two women, Amoti and Abuori, are gossipers. Amoti is a tribalist in this novel. She denies Vic to marry a man from another tribe, calling him a Munyamahanga. Amoti is revengeful and unforgiving. How? She turns away from her husband at a time of disaster, especially when Adiel suffers from HIV/AIDS and was about to die. Even when she is pleaded to forgive him, she is so reluctant. She is not ready to forgive Adiel and believes that it should be a lesson to him. Should this be practiced in the church? No. Humanity matters than revenge. Amoti is suspected to be unfaithful in her marriage. We are told that she loves going to Kinyamasika in the mornings. Possibly she has an extramarital affair, but this is the claim of the two prostitutes, Tusime and Kunihira, in page number 18. Amoti believes in superstition. How? Amoti believes that the sickness of her husband is due to witchcraft. She says that her husband has been bewitched by Berungi. Additionally, Amoti is a gossiper. Amoti and Abgori are seen gossiping against the wife of a rich shopkeeper. In page number 3, the author says, of course, she had spent more than 1 hour just gossiping against the wife of the rich shopkeeper, whom she intensively hated and was jealous of. They had laughed and laughed with Abwali, who was her best friend. So this is a proof that Amoti is really a gossiper. Amoti is a victim of HIV/AIDS, which she acquires from Adieri. She is also wiped away from the scene by the pandemic, which she contracted from her husband, and passes away like a shadow. In some cases, she is not worth being emulated, but in others, yes. Listeners, another character is Atwoki. Who is Atwoki in this novel? Atwoki, the son of Adiel, who suffers poor upbringing from his heavily drinking father. He is a handsome and famous football star. He is nicknamed Fort Poto Bullet when he is in high school. Atwoki plays for the national team, that is the Uganda national team, and he scores a brilliant goal which makes the president reward him. Atwoki builds his mother a house somewhere in Katumba. He makes a lot of money and he manages to build a house for his mother at Katumba near Kachwamba. Remember, Kachwamba is where Adieri lives. He is easily forgiving, unlike his mother. He forgives his father when he is brought home by his fans at a time when Adieri was seriously sick. Atwoki is a victim of peer pressure. He is influenced by his friend David in Kampala and begins chasing girls. Following his behavior, he gets HIV from his girlfriend Eda and is soon to die of AIDS. Atwoki has a changing behavior. At first, we are told he is so disciplined and faithful, but later he changes and becomes a reputed womanizer like his daddy. He is a betrayer or a traitor. How? Atwoki betrays his sister and his mother. When his mother is sick, he does not provide any financial help, to the extent that Atwoki has to go to Vic for financial support and relies on the support given by John, which later turned out to be a trap. Dear listeners, another character is Aboki. Who is Aboki? Aboki is a daughter of Adieri and Amoti. She is a good advisor. She advises Atoki to be careful when in Kampala, lest he dies. She is a faithful and disciplined girl. She managed to remain virgin until she reached high school. Aboki unexpectedly falls into a trap of a hypocrite known as Johnny, who tricks her and sleeps with her out of her consent. Aboki is caring and loving. How? She takes care of her sick mother and brother. Although Atwok deserted her when he was in the Hall of Fame, she never revenged when he needed her help. So, we must learn something from Aboki. Aboki falls in love with Dr. Jonathan, a counselor. After confirming that she is HIV and pregnancy-free, the two fall in love and start honorable relationship. Aboki is forgiving. She easily forgives her brother Atwoki when he comes back from Kampala, despite neglecting her in his better days. Dear listeners, here goes another important character in this novel. Who is this character? This is Vicky. Who is Vicky in this story? Vicky is an orphan and Adieri's niece who lives with him after her mother's death. She is not given good parental care, so that is to say, Vicky suffers poor upbringing. Her mother is dead. She is taken care by her uncle. She exiles herself from home and meets Akena, who wants to marry her. But the issue is complicated by her uncle, who demands high bride price. Vic is exploited by Adieri's family. How? We are told she went to Bondibugyo to pick tea in the plantation, but the money was prepaid to Amot, who uses it to pay the school fees for her children, and Vic got nothing from her seat. So this is an indicator of exploitation. Vic does not smell any coin out of her labor in Bondibugyo. Who exploits Vic? She is nobody but Amoti. Vic becomes a prostitute temporarily. She decides to go for commercial sex as a result of the influence from her friends Tusime and Kunihira. Vic marries Arganyira, but they are not blessed with a child. Her husband pressurizes her to go to the witch doctor, where she gets HIV/AIDS. She becomes a victim and dies of the same infection. Vic has no common stand. She leaves Akena because of the complications made by her caretakers, Adieri and Amoti. She engages in prostitution following the advice from her friends, and she agrees to go to the witch doctor despite her knowledge of the potential dangers involved. Vic is a good advisor. By the way, she advises Aboki not to go for money. It is better she gets married to a beggar, provided they love each other. Another character is David. Who is David in this story? David is a son of a rich and important man, both in the government and the Kabaka's council in Kampala. He is Atoki's friend and a university dropout or university reject. He is the one who invites Atoki to Kampala and influences him negatively. David is a womanizer like his father. How? The author says he was his father's perfect replica. That's to say, David behaves like his father. He influences Atoki to start hunting for girls, and they eventually do so. He gets HIV/AIDS and spreads it intentionally. He is a bad advisor. He advises Atoki by misleading him. He says, for instance, "Look, Atoki, if you can't change the world, allow the world to change you." Page number 33. David dresses expensively, and his greatest hobby is to chat with girls. Dressing expensively is an indicator that David comes from a rich family. David is not worth being emulated. The last important character, dear listeners, is Birungi. Who is Birungi in this novel? Birungi is Adiari's concubine who lives in Burungu. She is very beautiful with attractive hair. Birungi manages to get hold of Adiari despite all the defenses he put. Birungi is a prostitute and the exploiter of men. She exploits Adiari, who steals the school funds to build her a house and sells his plot of land to finance her shop. Birungi is a former secretary of Adiari when he was the headmaster of St. Leo's High School. Birungi is ignorant of the disease called slim or AIDS and spreads it unawares. Listener, remember, an alternative name for HIV/AIDS in this novel is slim. So it is called slim by majority Ugandans because they are ignorant of HIV/AIDS. Lastly, Birungi is a betrayer. She betrays Adiari by throwing him out when he needed her help while they spent good time together. She takes another boyfriend just the second day, who takes over Adiari's place. Listeners, thank you for your maximum attention, and today's lesson ends up here. The next part of the analysis will cover the remaining parts of form, which include setting, style, language use, and the content part of this novel. Thank you very much for your attention. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if still yet, for you to get connected